Welcome back to Good Morning Nigeria. It's time for our top story. Now, with vast amounts of items and services being available just a click away around much of the world, it's no wonder that Nigerians are opening their arms to e-commerce. But how ready are we for e-commerce on a larger scale? Well, joining us to help us answer this question, and I've been given a thumbs up by the ladies in the studio, so I hope I'm not going to mess up your name now. Bolaho Fabure. He is the CEO of Supermart.ng. I'm going to take his silence for fantastic pronunciation. I couldn't even said it better myself.
100%.
That's such a kind man. I have to say that.
Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so, looking at e-commerce around the world, if we look at e-commerce in the US, it's something that picked up more than a decade ago. I would love to begin the conversation with, yes, we may be welcoming e-commerce, but why is it taking us so long to finally get to this point?
I think it's a stage of development. So if you look back, 5, maybe 6 years ago, e-commerce wasn't really available here in Nigeria. But if you now go back about 3-4 years, you found that more and more players are coming into the industry, whether it's people who are doing a wide assortment from everything from mobile phones to shoes, to clothes, to white goods, or people who are specialists in particular areas, people who are just specializing in fashion, some specializing in, I think there's a guy I saw last week who's doing used tires, of people like us, Supermart, who are doing groceries. So I think you will only find that trend growing and growing. And of course, as people get more comfortable with paying online, doing transactions online, they will have more trust in the service. As long as the payment services work and the service they are rendered are reliable and trustworthy, you find that e-commerce will continue to rise in Nigeria. And we've certainly seen 30% year-on-year growth across the industry in the last 4 or 5 years.
Fantastic points you raised on the partner organizations you have to work with in terms of payments online. You have to work with some banking services, and some people, for a number of people, that's their biggest fear, in terms of buying something online. I want, how safe is my card, using my card online? Am I sure that they wouldn't overcharge me, and then to resolve the issue would take a long time? How do you assure people, how do you assuage the fears of your customers that indeed it's all right for them to use their cards or spend money online?
I think anytime I'm asked this question, the first thing I always say is probably using your card is probably the safest place in the world to use a debit card, because there's nowhere else in the world that I know where there is 3-factor authentication. So first of all, you put your card in, you put your chip, you put your PIN number in, you put your password in there, you now put a one-time password. Everywhere else in the world, they're moving towards just, either just a touchless payment where you don't actually have to put any password. So here, those are 3 different steps of checks.
That's very interesting to say it's actually
and in all my time in e-commerce, I don't recall, it probably has happened, but I don't recall any serious case of fraud. Okay. Whereas, if you're doing cash payments, there's possible case of theft when you're doing things like, pay on delivery. But with actual card payments, I don't recall any case of any customer being defrauded because, they put their card in and it was paid into a different company or someone stole their card details. So I think that fear comes from that 419 era. Yes. I think that 419 era is largely gone. So people should not feel that using their card is an unsafe way to pay. So even if you think about the CBN is trying to push cashless payments. So I think it's only natural that we find payments moving towards this segment more and more.
Okay. Now, looking at, that's perhaps a con that many people look at in terms of not being quite ready to move that forward. But what are the benefits of e-commerce to Nigeria? Why should we be, happy that we're seeing that this sector is growing? It feels as if Nigerians only care about corruption right now, but the economy is it's on a lot of our minds. So what is the greater benefit for the economy when looking at e-commerce growing?
Yeah, so if you think about a typical consumer, a typical customer, you want to buy a mobile phone. How do you compare prices? How do you find these mobile phones? So if I work in VR, for example, where can I go to buy a mobile phone? If I go to Sakatinibu, it's going to take me half an hour to find parking. Where else can I go? I want to go to Computer Village in Ikeja. I don't have 2 hours to spend. What is the most convenient way to find the widest assortment of everything? I can go online and check various services and say, okay, fine. On this site or that site, I can find probably hundreds of different phones, compare prices, check out their features in detail, and can then now make a decision, and that phone is delivered to me. I don't have to leave my office. So for us, when we sell groceries to customers, do you really want to go into a supermarket, walking down the aisle, spending an hour queuing, looking for parking, when you can just do it online? It gets delivered to you, and then you can carry on with your day, or carry on with your personal activities. And so for us, that sense of convenience, that sense of bringing a market that was typically just offline before and bringing it online. So for us at Supermart, some of the things we do is we partner with local markets, so people who are selling pomo, people who are selling ogbono. And those people...
I can buy pomo online?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So those
wow.
people...
You would have like, wow.
Those people who are selling only to people who drive into the local markets will never have had access to the kind of customers we have. So for us, we're even helping to develop that segment of the retail chain as well.
I mean, everything sounds so wonderful, but there's still that resistance from, the person that's had their shop for the last 5 years, and to them, everything is going well. They seem to not want to, there seems to be this tug against moving into, the realm of e-commerce. There are some challenges, there must be as well, involved with moving towards e-commerce if you have a business, or are people completely misguided and they don't know that they're missing a huge opportunity?
Yes, I mean, I think you'll find people who are more receptive to that kind of move than others. So I mean, typically people who so I'll probably say there have been e-commerce firms in Nigeria probably for about 5-6 years, but we talk about professional e-commerce probably the last 3-4 years. And when people have seen, how well these businesses have done in terms of, sales and they're generating, they are then being encouraged to go online. So whether it's people selling phones or who are doing groceries, and even for those who are a bit resistant now, that's fine, as long as they're able to keep their business going on an offline basis. I mean, e-commerce may not be for everyone. Some people will say, look, I want to keep a very small store. I want to make my service
traditional,
have a personal service. And of course, some businesses may not be fit for e-commerce. I mean, if you are doing it with something that's very, very personal, something that's very high-end, it may be better for you to stay offline. But if you are doing everyday goods, you're selling phones, clothes, groceries, shoes, electronics, then I think opening up your business to an online market is the way of the future. So even if you're not doing it now, at some point it will start to move. Then even if you're not doing it, your competitor will do it. And once your competitor moves, you almost have to follow.
I just wanted to ask, how important do you think it is to have an online presence in Nigeria? So like I mentioned earlier on that we're seeing an emergence of people going more online and having their businesses online. So you might still want to maintain a physical presence, but how important is it to still have that online presence as well?
Man, I think it's key if you are doing everyday essentials, like all the products I've mentioned just now. So, I mean, you can have a physical store and you can also then have an online presence. Okay. You've seen that model happening across, the US, the UK, China, across Asia. So I think it is something that people will have to do. But of course, people who have been in traditionally offline stores for a long time, 5, 10, 15 years, they will have to spend some time understanding what it takes to be an online business, because of course it requires a different set of competencies to run an online business. You have to think of how you attract customers, how you deliver a service on time, how do you work out the payment solutions, which is different from saying I'm going to have a store in a good location in VI, Ikeja, or wherever, and customers will come in and I can serve them and they come in and they leave. So of course thinking about those things will require require time, or require you to invest in finding the right people to run those businesses. So I think, yes, do it, but make sure you're prepared for what the business entails when you jump in. Okay,
well, thank you very much for joining us. I do hope you watching at home that if you were a bit resistant about e-commerce, you've, from this conversation, decided if it's for you or not for you. Now we're going to head over, thank you for joining us. I'm so ready to see Mr. Victor. This, of course, was Bolaho Fabure, the CEO of Supermart.ng. Let's head over for another news update with Mr. Victor.
So, did you like what you just saw? I know you did. It's very simple. If you want to see more, just subscribe to our channel right now.